Good morning. What's up, guys? Bucky Dillon here. This is the second hour of the Bucky Dillon Morning Show, a Liberty Revolt Media production hosted by 1360 KHNC. And guys, I sure do love you. The call-in number 970 587 5171. Call in anytime. For any reason, ask me anything. Like I said, this show is supposed to be a collaborative between myself and the freedom-loving, free speech advocating, thinking patriot community right here in Northern Colorado. Before I get too far, I would like to give a shout out to a friend of mine who I have deemed Patriot of the Month. What is Patriot of the Month? Well, I have started a magazine called the Roar of the Rockies newsletter, and the first issue will be coming out right away. And part of this is bringing awareness and supporting people who are doing great things for our community. So Patriot of the Month is dedicated to just that, identifying people who are doing thankless jobs or people who are donating their time in a way that makes our community a better place. And Patriot of the Month is Brandon Barrios. In the aftermath of the first government lockdowns about a year ago in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, Brandon Barrios found his used instrument store, the Music Go Round in Fort Collins, shut down, leaving him with a lot of time to think. He decided to get some fresh air and some quiet time to clear his mind. Just give me 1 second here. So he decided to get some fresh air and some quiet time to clear his mind by heading up to Horsetooth Reservoir and looking out over the landscape. Taken by the natural beauty, he pulled out his phone to take some photographs. But as he tried to capture the perfect shot, he began to really notice the trash and debris left behind by other visitors. Good thing we banned plastic bags. That trash will be gone. This sparked a call to action for him, and he set about to begin clearing it. It gave him a great feeling of charity and accomplishment. He enjoyed it so much, in fact, that he made up his mind to make it a regular weekend activity and to inform his friends on social media of his intentions to do so, inviting anyone and everyone to join him. It was a hit. Soon, every Saturday, Brandon was leading a small volunteer group of 2 to 11 people to make their way along the shores and trails with trash bags, picking up every scrap, wrapper, bottle, can, and cigarette butt that he could find. He systematically cleaned almost 400 pounds of trash from the entire north end of the 6.2-mile man-made lake and has begun to start the southern end and other northern Colorado areas. People have told him that it has inspired them not only to join him on Saturdays, but to be cleaner and more conscientious in their own lives. He even scored an interview with 9 News Denver and one right here on the Bucky Dillon Show on 1360 KHNC. It has now become a weekly tradition to enjoy the sunshine, the exercise, the accomplishment, and the feeling of giving back and the sense of community that these events have been fostering, and the lake is looking better too. So Brandon, man, I can't say enough good things about you. Thank you so much for being a part of our community, and for, gosh, picking up 400 pounds of trash. That is the kind of personal responsibility. That is the kind of giving back to your community that really does make a difference. And you know what? Keep being you, because we absolutely appreciate you. So, guys, if you want to support Brandon, go check out the Music Go Round in Fort Collins. It's off of Drake and College, just south of Drake of College, on the right-hand side next to Cafe Mexicali. One thing you could do is consider dropping off a gift card for a local restaurant, just to say thank you. That would be really, really cool, and it would go a long way to inspiring people to continue to continue engaging in that. So, guys, what's up? How are you doing? Give me a call, 970-587-5171, and I'm going to tell you guys a little story about how I got to where I am now. So first, I would like to announce that I'm officially semi-full-time / full-time at the radio station, which means this show is going to get a whole lot better, because as of now, I've been working 2 jobs and I didn't have any legitimate prep time. So now I'm going to be able to actually engage in now I'll be able to actually engage in prep, and it's going to go a long way to making this show a lot better. And I'm going to focus that now on local politics, because I think that is what will make the biggest difference in our community. And so I want to reach out to you guys and invite you to help me get in connection with the right groups, with the right people, to get an inside view. I have a press pass, I have a camera, and I would really like to go talk to our city council members. In my magazine, I'm going to be putting all of the city council events where they're going to be engaging with the public, the dates and times, in the newsletter, so that people can go, hopefully in a persuasive way, make their voices heard. You're listening to the Bucky Dillon Show right here on 1360 KHNC. Hang around.
This is Sam Shook, Navy vet and Medicare specialist. I just want to thank the KHNC listeners for their support and trust in me as their Medicare specialist. If you are currently on Plan F, we are in a window of opportunity that can save you a lot of money towards your monthly premium. Please contact me at 970-413-4939. If you are getting into Medicare soon or are already enrolled and have questions, please call me at 970-413-4939. Again, thanks, KHNC listeners.
COVID has stopped Triangle Cross Ranch from conducting any fundraisers since March of 2020. Current state government issues has stopped our ability to have fundraisers until March 2021. We need financial donations to get through the rest of the year. Any financial support is welcome, or just send $1 US silver dollar a month to support our Christian mission. Triangle Cross Ranch, 36049 County Road 51, P.O. Box 727, Gailton, Colorado, 80622.
Is the driveway made of fruit leather, or has the apple stopped appling? If your half of a 100-foot cottonwood tree just needs a haircut, call Affordable Tree Service North at 970-568-6898. We have saved many trees everyone else said was dead. Ah, show-offs! Hey, you're not in this one either. From fire mitigation, bushes, trees to bees, that's 568-6898. God bless us!
When dealing with a worldwide pandemic, remember to avoid, distance, and alienate yourself from friends, family, and neighbors. That way, when the crisis is over, no one will ask you to help them move, to borrow money, or bother you for a cup of sugar ever again. After all, who needs community anyway? This has been a public service announcement. Have a lovely day.
So I started saying at the final segment of the first hour that I think as libertarians and conservatives, we will always have an uphill battle when engaging in politics with progressives, because progressives believe that the government is a legitimate avenue for solving injustices, and they always use that as the first and foremost tool to engage in politics. So they are far more likely to show up to vote. They're far more likely to volunteer. So I'm sorry, conservatives, but the progressives are far more likely to take personal responsibility for the change that they would like to see in our society. And that's just what it is. When you believe in collective action, when you believe in utilizing the government to solve injustices, you engage in it. The libertarians don't believe in it. That's why they never win anything. They don't engage in it. They sit back and talk about tax rates and I guess draft really great memes, but it's not making a meaningful impact. The progressives have commandeered the narrative. They've commandeered the media that drives the narrative. They're controlling the language, and that's why people's perspectives are all skewed. That's why people's priorities are all skewed, right? Yeah, there was NPR episodes talking about how great it would be to turn Hughes Stadium parking lot into open land, and at no point did they mention the fact that, oh, by the way, housing, the cost of housing has gone up 58% in Fort Collins since 2007 because people are moving here significantly faster than we're building houses. At no point do they mention that if you drive 30 minutes in any direction from the center of Fort Collins, you'll be in open land, right? In between Fort Collins and Loveland, there's miles and miles and miles and miles of open land that stretches all the way from gosh, what is it? From LeMay, south of Trilby, all the way to the Rocky Mountains. Just to the west of Hughes Stadium is the entire Rocky Mountain Range. Just to the east of Fort Collins is the Pawnee grasslands. Just to the north is miles and miles and miles of designated open land. And yet people, working class people, single moms, and the disadvantaged are spending well over 50% of their money on rent alone. And that's not even touching the cost of childcare, which is absolutely outrageous. And so people really don't have their perspectives right. People are talking about well, how do we clamp down on climate change? Well, obviously we clamp down on climate change by banning fossil fuels in the US, by banning fracking, which is why the US has led the world in the reduction of CO2 emissions in the last decade. I mean, we've brought our CO2 emissions back down to where they were in the 1990s while simultaneously growing our economy. That's almost unthinkable. Nowhere in the world are people growing their economies and lowering their carbon footprint at the same time. But the United States was doing it, irrespectively of the fact that we left the Paris Climate Accords, because the Paris Climate Accords didn't do anything. It was just a bunch of wealthy elites flying across the world on their private jets that burn like 112 gallons of diesel fuel per minute or something ridiculous. That's not an exact number. Fact check me, but it's an obscene amount. And then putting on a pair of sandals and walking out there and acting like they care about the climate because they're going to tax regular people and they're going to ban fossil fuel investments in the countries that are actually leading the way, while turning a blind eye to China, which is responsible for a minimum of 27% of the world's CO2 emissions alone, and and just polluting everything. You can't even. I was in China for 3 months. I never saw a star. I never saw the moon. I never saw a sunrise or a sunset. The sun just slowly apparated from the haze and then faded back into the smokestacks on the other side of the horizon. I mean, it really is ridiculous. If we cared about climate change, what we would do, we wouldn't ban plastic bags in Fort Collins. What we would do is we would increase, well, number one, we would become energy self-sufficient, right? Energy independent. Because there, as much of a free trade, free market libertarian guy as I am, we actually do need to make sure that we are self-sufficient in key industries: oil, energy, steel, pharmaceuticals, agriculture. We need to be able to take care of our own people. I mean, yeah, the free market's great, and you may be able to get things a little cheaper that way. But when you're reliant on Saudi Arabia for your oil, Russia for your oil, when you're reliant on China for your steel and your pharmaceuticals, for your PPE, and then a pandemic hits, or then some kind of conflict breaks out, you're in a bad spot. You're not self-sufficient. So, if we really cared about the environment, we would stop the expansion of biomass, which is literally just burning down the rainforest in lieu of fossil fuels, because people don't understand where the so-called green energy is coming from. We would start exporting natural gas to countries that are still burning coal and dung for fuel, right? Green energy, being energy conscious, is really a privilege of wealthy countries. So by expanding the economies of countries that are in poverty, you would go a lot farther to dampen carbon footprints around the world than you would by just cracking down on the US, which, like I said, is leading the world in the reduction of CO2 emissions while simultaneously growing our economy. It's very frustrating to see how our perspectives and our cultural narratives are getting hijacked by a small minority of the loudest and most politically active among us, who really are authoritarian. I mean it. I'm going to say it. Bernie Sanders is far more authoritarian than Donald Trump. Think about it for about 2 seconds. Which one wants to put the government in charge of your health care? Which one wants to relinquish your right to defend yourself? Which one wants to increase regulations on speech? Which ones want to give you less control over the wholly unsustainable and immoral, unmitigated illegal immigration into the country? Which one wants to raise your taxes because they believe they can spend your money better than you can? Which one says, oh, all these private monopolies are bad, therefore we're going to establish government-sponsored monopolies? Excuse me. Let's think about this for a second. How does making your neighbor pay for healthcare make doctors charge less? Imagine this. You go to a restaurant. Or no, imagine this. You go to a car dealership and there's a super nice, in my personal case, a super nice souped up like $70,000 Jeep that's got, it's lifted, it's got the big tires, it's got everything, right? And on the other side of it is like a 93 Dodge Caravan or something. And they say, don't worry about it. The government's going to pay for it. Which vehicle are you going to get? You're going to get the best. You're going to get the most expensive, right? Well, if everyone does this, how is that cheaper? You're still paying for it. The government doesn't have money. The government doesn't have any money. It either taxes the people directly and preemptively to pay for things, and our politicians don't really like doing that because then they feel the personal political ramifications of taxing people, because people don't like having their money confiscated. Or they print money, which allows them to tax people indirectly via inflation, which disproportionately hurts poor people who don't have savings and can't protect their savings by investing in physical assets that appreciate in value. But either way, the government doesn't just have money. The government can't just give you something for free. Somebody has to put labor into it. Somebody needs to get paid for it. And in no way does making your neighbor pay for something make the car dealership charge less for the vehicle. If anything, it just gives them an incentive to raise the price because people aren't paying out of pocket, so they're not thinking about it. But the bill comes due no matter what. And people think that the wealthy corporations, the wealthy people in this country are just gonna stick around and pay for all of this. I'm gonna find something in the next break. I'm gonna talk about trickle down economics and other economic myths. It's a book written by Thomas Sowell, and heck, I'll just read it to you guys because it's absolutely brilliant. But first, with the few remaining moments, I would like to tell you guys why I no longer consider myself a Democrat, why I was a Bernie Sanders progressive, why I was a Democrat from the day I discovered politics, why I voted for Obama, and why I am so adamant about my conservatarian beliefs. And I would say I'm more libertarian than I am conservative, but I'm certainly not a pure libertarian either. So this is kind of like my hashtag walk away story, right? I grew up as a normal kid, playing outside and hyper focused on my own little world, right? I wasn't paying attention about politics at all. I was paying attention to my social relationships, the games I liked, the trends I liked, and I was imagining some ideal future where I could be like the cool guys I saw on the 90s pop punk bands and the little skaters that I would create, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, right? And I never even considered politics, even though I'm sure that I was exposed to some news, and I'm sure that there were family members espousing their opinions. I never really listened. I think most of my family is passively conservative, but I was able to fully develop into a young man without ever really discovering politics or forming my own opinions at all. It really wasn't until I got later into high school that I started to absorb opinions, mostly through like my favorite punk and metal bands, which was like System of a Down and Slipknot and Rage Against the Machine and Green Day. And so obviously the message there was George Bush bad and Republicans are racist, sexist, bigoted, homophobic, warmongers who hate the poor, right? And so that's I just absorbed my political opinions from the ether out around me, which is why culture matters. We have to engage in the culture. And this is what progressives are great at. They understand that 80% plus of the population, they don't pay attention to politics. The most they hear about politics comes from their favorite celebrities or their favorite musicians, or maybe they walk past a TV that has CNN on it and they read the Chiron and hear a 30-second little clip of something that I'm sure is just genuine news, guys. It's so great. More on this when I come back from the break. Hey Robert, thanks for hanging out with me again this morning. Always good to see you, man. Hey, hang around. The Bucky Dillon Show will be right back.
Hello, my name is Keith, and I'm the host of the program, The Pursuit of God, on 1360 KHNC, and I invite you to join me Saturday mornings at 11 o'clock as we go on this great pursuit of God.
Are you paying too much for your home, life, or auto insurance? It only takes 10 minutes to find out. Hi, this is Kevin Voles with Badger Insurance Advisors. Choosing insurance plans can be difficult. That's why I make it easy. I'll make the calls, compare the plans and prices, and find you the insurance plan that fits your needs. Best of all, my help is at no cost to you. Call me today at 303-359-1799. or visit badgerinsuranceadvisors.com. Let me find the right insurance for you.
Hey, it's Larry Elder. Thank you for listening to me every weekday from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. right here on 1360 KHNC, the roar of the Rockies. Do you own a business in northern Colorado or surrounding areas? Are you looking to reach a conservative, family-based, loyal audience which could grow your business? Well, take my advice and just call 970-587-5003 or email on the air at 1360khnc.com and tell them Larry sent you.
A lot of radio stations boast about having 2, 3, 4, 500,000 listeners. But what they don't tell you is the average listener only listens for 4 minutes. A song plays they don't like, same old boring commentary, or worse yet, as soon as the commercial starts playing, they change the station. Here at 1360 KHNC, our listeners listen longer, a lot longer. We have one of the longest time spent listening in the industry. That means our listeners don't change the dial when the commercial starts playing because they don't want to miss what our hosts have to say next. Advertise with 1360 KHNC and have your message be heard. Call us at 970-587-5003. We also have the best rates in Colorado. 970-587-5003 or 1360khnc.com. Higher rates, lower rates, negative rates, bail-ins, bailouts, and so much more. You know why you need to own gold and silver. At the Patriot Trading Group, we're a different kind of company. We have no commission salespeople, no boiler room sales calls, no high-price spokesman. We believe in treating you with honesty and respect and delivering you the best products at the best price. Buying or selling, call us at 800-951-0592 or go to our website at allamericangold.com.
LibertyRevoltMedia.com is founded on strategies to engage in the culture war and to develop a better understanding of policy and its ramifications. Listen to KHNC every weekday from 5 to 7 a.m. to the Bucky Dillon Morning Show. So right now I'm kind of explaining a little bit about my past, where my political philosophy comes from, and why I have chosen to take a stand for libertarian conservative values. And it's not necessarily that I think that, you know, libertarian conservative values are the only appropriate values. I genuinely believe we need all kinds of different people, all kinds of different perspectives. We're all looking at the world through a keyhole. And as we look at our country's history and as we look, you know, towards the future, it's safe to assume that we are going to face an infinite variety of challenges, and we actually will need progressives pointing out disparities and discriminations and lobbying for an effective social safety net for the disadvantaged. But we will also need conservatives digging their heels in and reminding people that, you know, the government is often a very inefficient and inappropriate tool for solving life's injustices. And there's actually a hidden wisdom in our traditions that and in our institutions that have been passed down through the generations. You know, so we should be very careful about not throwing out what works in pursuit of some utopian imaginary vision of a future that could be, but has never existed anywhere in the world at any time in human history. And then, you know, of course, we need libertarians pointing out that, hey guys, look, politicians are human beings susceptible to corruption, just like anyone else. And the best friend of corrupt big business is a corrupt big government that they can get in bed with. And that's why, companies like Amazon weaponize government regulations like minimum wages and such to crush their competitors, right? That's why the FDA allows dentists to put dental amalgam fillings that are 50% mercury in your mouth, and allows trace amounts of toxic heavy metals into big brand baby foods like Gerber and Beechnut, while simultaneously banning for decades and decades and decades, banning marijuana and banning raw milk, right? Literally kicking the doors down and raiding raw milk facilities. Oh, God forbid, right? People are too stupid and irresponsible to drink raw milk. Hey, we can eat raw eggs. You can buy raw pork. You can buy raw fish, but raw milk is where we draw the line because they have been bought off. So libertarians are rightly pointing out that most politicians suck at their job. And the best friend of big corrupt business is big government, right? The best friend of the super wealthy, the truly elite, is a socialist government, right? That's why every socialist government ends up being hijacked by the worst people. They use all these great promises to get into power, but they don't redistribute the wealth. They just confiscate the wealth. That's why you have the super wealthy like Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and all these super wealthy people saying, yeah, progressive ideas. It's like a giant oak tree looking down at all these little blades of grass and pointing to one little blade of grass that's a little bit taller and saying, get him. He's ripping you off, right? They never actually get they never actually accomplish the utopia they explain to. But I'm getting way off on a tangent here. I was talking about how my political opinions were kind of shaped because I was a Bernie Sanders progressive, right? I had gotten most of my political news from just like punk bands and other cultural icons, and I was just kind of absorbing these trendy progressive narratives, and I didn't really seek out any political news, and I didn't really study policy and its ramifications. I voted for Obama in his second term for no other reason than that he was black and he said nice sounding things. And I was like, Obama would say things like, this country can be home to Muslims too. And this was on the heels of George Bush and 9/11 and these wars in the Middle East, which, were largely about protecting the petrodollar. I will agree with the progressives that the United States government has engaged in a lot of corrupt things, right? Totally. But the runners up to global power were like what? China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Iran. Like, if you care about progressive values, how exactly is bankrupting the United States and handing the torch of global dominance over to China going to be good for social justice and environmental justice and all of these progressive values that we so-called care about, right? So, my favorite icons trashed Republicans. My teachers were Democrats. My girlfriend's parents were Democrats. And so, I just assumed that I was a Democrat. I just assumed it. I just took it for granted. I didn't even think about it. And then I didn't really get really interested in politics until late 2015, 2016, when I was on social media, and I started seeing I started seeing from a lot of my cultural voices and from the opinions and posts shared by my friends on social media, stuff like Vox, Now This, Huffington Post, and other like really trendy progressive social media based news outlets that were very tech savvy, and they specifically targeted angsty, dissatisfied and idealistic millennials, and that really began to kind of shape my political views. And they always had like these really catchy animated videos that were narrated by, you know, relatively charismatic young progressives, contrasting real world problems with, you know, emotionally targeted utopian ideas, utopian visions of what the future could be, of a post-racial society, of a society that emphasized equity, and everyone had a fair shot and there wasn't corruption, right? They always contrast these two visions, and then they recommend these really oversimplified catch-all solutions. They always kept it short, they always kept it direct, and they spoke in very simple moral terms. And of course, it was easy to buy what they sold me. And as I started to pay more attention, I got attracted to like the moral sloganeering of Bernie Sanders. You know, he seemed to have sympathy for my plight, which gave me an excuse for blaming all of my personal problems in my life on these outside entities, right? There was these corrupt forces that were rigging the system and holding me down. And yeah, in some sense that's true, but you know, I think it's the proposed solutions where it all
Do you
goes
need
wrong.
your fireplace clean? Not sure if your fireplace is working right, or not sure if the fireplace is efficient? Call Abundant Flame at 970-966-0217 to schedule your appointment. We service all brands of gas fireplaces, freestanding and built-ins, pellet stoves, wood fireplaces, and electric fireplaces. Visit us at Abundant-Flame or call 970-966-0217.
Hi, Brian Kilmeade here. Thanks so much for listening to me every weekday from 7 a.m. till 10 a.m. right here on KHNC, the roar of the Rockies. Hey, do you own a business in northern Colorado or surrounding areas? Are you looking to reach a conservative, loyal audience which could grow your business? Well, take my advice and contact my friends at KHNC. KHNC has a rapidly growing conservative family-based audience, and you can speak directly to them. Now, if you're looking for the type of customers or clients that believe in the principles that our great country was founded upon, just contact my friends at KHNC, the Roar of the Rockies, and learn how you can be heard right on the air. Just call 970-587-5003 or email on the air at 1360khnc.com. That's 970-587-5003 or email on the air at 1360khnc.com. Take it from me, Brian Kilmeade. You can showcase your business to the folks that are helping to take our country back.
Before you throw away those unused medicines,
those pills for your back pain or migraines,
just think for a minute. When you throw them in the trash, they can become lethal in the wrong hands. There are better ways to dispose of your unused meds.
there are lots of police stations, local pharmacies, and hospitals that are approved to take in unused meds
and dispose of them safely so they don't end up in the wrong hands. Our hands.
To find a medicine disposal site near you, visit www.safe.pharmacy, a public service message from the National Association of Boards of Pharmacy.
So I had fully buttoned in to this message that Bernie Sanders was peddling, that the whole system was corrupted by these powerful private actors who had rigged the system against me, and through collective action, I could have these woes all alleviated by the implementation of new, shiny, slimy government policies which could hold these villains responsible and restructure society in a way that was more equitable, in a way that redistribution schemes could fix all of our problems. And make society more fair and equal. His proposals are always emotionally driven, simple, and it's like the most obvious knee-jerk reaction. People are poor, give them more money, right? Healthcare is expensive, make it free. Wages aren't rising fast enough, well, just make businesses pay more. And if they try to raise the price of goods, well, then just implement price controls on those. Don't let them charge more, right? If education is expensive, make it free. Housing is expensive, force landlords to charge less. Mass shootings are happening. We're just going to take away the scary guns, right? And you know, except for these villains he's referring to, who could possibly be against these really nice sounding ideas, right? Who could be against the idea of democratic socialism? After all, socialism just means that we as a community get together and take care of each other, right? It just means that we're moral and compassionate. That's all it means. And the alternative is what? Like authoritarian, racist Republicans who are all bought off by these big shadowy corporations. So, you know, I began to embrace these concepts, and I just got angrier and angrier with anyone who disagreed, right? Because obviously, what kind of stupid or morally deficient person could possibly be opposed to these well-intentioned ideas? They must therefore have bad intentions, or I guess perhaps they've just been brainwashed by these nefarious powerful right-wing influencers who get together and meet in their vampire dungeons and plot how they're going to exploit the poor. So you know, I started to get really angry, and I would get in arguments with people about the merits of socialism, particularly older people, and they would crush me. But I wouldn't listen to their opinions. I would just get angry, right? I would just get physically pissed off. And sometimes I would straight up just storm out, because they would try to dissuade me of my affinity for socialist ideas by pointing to the long history of governments who have made all of these same promises, these same well-intentioned suggestions as a justification to concentrate power, but failed to ever reach that utopian future. And in many cases, almost every case, they just turn into tyrannical states instead. And so I decided that I was going to dig deeper, that I was going to dive into the basket of deplorables, and I was going to learn their arguments and be able to Ben Shapiro style own them. Lasers were going to shoot out of my eyes, and you know, my grandfather would just be burnt to a crisp before me. I would own the neocons, right? So I began to actually kind of listen to libertarian and conservative thinkers, expecting the worst, right? I thought I was moral. I thought I was on the army of the angels, and therefore I was going up against, well, the army of Satan, right? The army of evil Republicans. And as I began this journey, that's when Bernie Sanders was cheated out of the 2016 Democratic nomination, and I was infuriated. I was just disgusted by the establishment Democrats. How could they be so corrupt? And I began to, Bernie endorsed Hillary, and he urged his supporters to support her. And I was like, well, if Bernie says so, right? He cares about me. So I started looking into Hillary, and she was a corrupt establishment politician. She was engaging in the same slimy politics and catering to the very same shadowy, wealthy Wall Street corporate interests as the Republicans. I mean, she literally embodied everything that Bernie Sanders had ever spoken out about. And I thought, how could he abandon all of his virtues? Right? I thought, man, he just stumbled out there like a beaten dog on a leash and kissed the ring of the very swamp monster that he had been railing against. So I just refused to vote in 2016. I just refused to vote entirely. I was like, screw Hillary, screw Trump. I said, screw Bernie Sanders, because he's such a weak-kneed coward who just, the moment he gets cheated, he bends down and kisses Hillary's ring and lets her mop the floor with him like a beaten dog, right? I was like, you know what? Bernie Sanders doesn't believe any of the crap that he goes out there and says, because the moment he gets ripped off, he endorses those who ripped him off. At least Trump has some balls. At least Trump would slap back, right? Bernie Sanders, what a joke. So anyways, I was pissed and I just refused to vote entirely. And I began to study a little bit. So I began to study a little bit more, and I began to realize that everything I thought I knew about conservatives was being filtered through a mindset of disgust and hate.
To be on the radio? Do you have strong opinions or ideas that you think should be heard? Why not host your own radio show right here on the Roar of the Rockies? You'll be on the same station as Brian Kilmeade, Michael Savage, and Alex Jones. You can brand yourself as an expert in your industry and grow your business. Imagine telling your potential clients you have your own radio show. That gives you instant credibility. For more information, call us at 970-587-5003.
Hi, this is Mike Morris, owner of Warriors Revolution Tactical in Longmont. At Warriors Revolution, we have the largest selection of tactical gear and ammo in northern Colorado. But what many people may not know is that we now sell firearms. And even despite the recent run on firearms and ammunition, we have plenty of product in the store, including ARs, AKs, Glocks, SIGs, HK, and more. And don't forget all the bulk ammunition at the best prices in town. Need to do a private firearms transfer? We can do that too. I am a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, and our team is made up of veterans and security experts, not a bunch of salesmen. Our team is trained and fought with much of the actual equipment we sell. And one thing you should know is that we support the foundations and principles this great country was founded upon. So if you need tactical gear, ammo, firearms, AR parts or upgrades, and even survival accessories, stop by and visit us on Ken Pratt Boulevard and Bowen Street in Longmont, or visit warriorsrevolution.com. That's warriorsrevolution.com.
No people will tamely surrender their liberties, nor can any be easily subdued when knowledge is diffused and virtue is preserved. On the contrary, when people are universally ignorant and debauched in their manners, they will sink under their own weight without the aid of foreign invaders. Samuel Adams.
So, I had heard conservative ideas on occasion, but I had never actually let my guard down and listened to them. I was so convinced of my moral superiority as a progressive that I didn't just think that conservative and the libertarians were wrong. I thought they were legitimately bad people. And I definitely conflated Republican politicians and my personal dislike of George Bush with conservative and libertarian ideas, right? But as I continued to listen, I listened to thinkers like the brilliant Black economist Thomas Sowell, like Larry Elder, like Milton Friedman, Walter Williams. I listened to some Ben Shapiro, and recently I've been really enjoying Dan Crenshaw, who's got a podcast called We Hold These Truths. brilliant in-depth breakdowns of political philosophy and policy issues. Just brilliant. But I realized that at the core of these ideas weren't some form of bigotry or selfishness. It was a dedication to liberty via limited government, to self-determination for better or worse, and actually pursuing the notion that people should be judged as individuals, instead of being broken down into specific groups. And this was one thing that I started to contrast with what I was saying with Bernie Sanders, because I never stopped following him. I would see Bernie literally make posts where he would say, Republicans want to divide us up by race, so they can authoritarianly dominate us. But unlike them, we have a coalition of Black and Latino and Hispanic and the alphabet people, LGBTQ, MAGA people, and trans people. And he would literally, in the same sentence, say that dividing people up into group identities was wrong, and then sit there and I break everybody up into groups. He did no consistency whatsoever, totally backhanded and frankly immoral. But best of all, if you believe in this is what the conservatives and libertarians were saying. If you believe in these progressive ideas, you can actually go out and engage in that in your own community without seizing the gun of government to enforce compliance and conformity. I began to realize that at the very philosophical core of progressivism was state-sponsored gun violence, right? That it was authoritarian. After all, you can live by socialist principles in a free society, but you cannot live free in a socialist society. And often progressives hijack civil rights movements and perverse them into what amounts to a grievance peddling industry. Well-intentioned liberalism, in the pursuit of abolishing injustices by collective action via the expansion of government, always leads to the diminishment of individual freedoms and a concentration of state control and power. And eventually the state has all the power, right? That they always go one step further. They always need one more injustice to run off of, right? And that state power is then inevitably and eventually leveraged by the powerful and well-connected to benefit themselves and create state-sponsored monopolies, protected regulations upheld by the threat of state-sponsored gun violence. Because if these regulations weren't upheld by the threat of violence, they would be suggestions. They wouldn't be laws. And so in this way, the social justice movement can easily open to the point that it becomes an actual impediment to the pursuit of a free and fair society where people are judged as individuals. You're listening to the Bucky Dillon Show. Have a wonderful day.
1360khnc.com has CBD products. Click on the shop button and get yours today.
Just go to 1360khnc.com/shop. The CBD on our website is 99% pure, all natural, no pesticides, non-GMO,